like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today to our special meeting. I want everyone to know that Commissioner Holloman and I are in a race to see who can get the iPhone 5 first. With it, I suspect he's probably going to win, but we will see. I'd like to, Bob, would you call the roll?
We have Commissioner Sales, Holloman, and Parkwright present.
Thank you. This matter, of course, will be broadcast on Channel 35. I think we can jump right in. We're going to start with the General Manager's report and comments.
Yes, I'd like to actually provide an intro into our first agenda item on the power rates here today, and we'll have Phil Leiber will be presenting that. But before we discuss the power rates, I'd like to put in context something. Ever since last May, actually last April, when we first started talking about our renewed efforts on power and water rates, we were talking about taking action on them concurrently. And you'll note that you don't have that on your agenda today, and I just wanted to provide some context so we have an opportunity for the board and public to understand that. Frankly, it would generally be my strong preference that we were able to take both matters up today. We've talked several times over the course of this summer and last year about the various factors that are driving up our water costs as well as our power costs. I think it's important to adjust rates when we know that our costs are driving them up. I think it's, as a policy, my recommendation generally to this board would be that we take action on matters and have smaller incremental rate adjustments that our customers can plan for and can take in stride, rather than having a situation where we might have higher incremental rate increases by deferring some of that. And our plan was indeed to do that, but we will only be taking action, or recommending, I should say, action for this board here today on the power rate side. And let me explain a little bit why. You might recall that separate and distinct from purchase water costs, which happened without board or council action, we had spoken several times over the course of this last summer on having a water rate proposal that was actually a slight reduction this fiscal year for the base rates, or the non-purchase water components, and then raising to about 5.25% next year. We've had several meetings on that. The purchase water costs, of course, are separate, and we have to make those adjustments irrespective, because we had a dry year, and we've talked about that as well. We had presented last spring in our discussion when we talked about our schedule for rate adjustments, working with the ratepayer advocate, who now is on board, our desire to move forward on water and power at the same time. And he expressed caution at that time that getting both of those done, since he had only started last February, could be a challenge. But we tried to press through on that irrespectively. It did take well into August to work through our adjustments and get the information satisfactory for the ratepayer advocate to be comfortable to make a finding, and then to bring this back to the board. So that pushed us later than we had anticipated. But while we've spent a lot of time with the ratepayer advocate and his consultants on the water rate, they're just really not at a point right now where they're fully comfortable. They still have some additional questions. It would take some additional time to go through that. We certainly recognize the importance of ratepayer advocates' review, and there are some areas where they've raised some questions related to rate design modifications, and some questions regarding our capital costs in our water quality program, and some aspects of our local water supply program that they would have some additional questions on. It's just simply going to take some more time to work through that. So while we've actually provided more information in support of both our water and our power rates than any time in the history, I believe, of this department, and it's been helpful to provide for that transparency. It also takes more time. It's just a fact. There are some favorable changes, though, that have come about on the water side that makes it a little less problematic for us not to act on water rates right now. Let me give you a little bit of context. Given this more rigorous process that we're doing now with the ratepayer advocate, it gets a little bit more like an investor-owned utilities rate review. It's a bit more formalized, and it requires an awful lot more documentation, as I've indicated. It takes us months to prepare that documentation. It also takes months to review that documentation, and I understand that. Whenever you do that, you have to kind of freeze things at a point in time. And our freezing of things for both power and water, when we were starting to lay things out for the ratepayer advocate, was effectively about April last year. And some things always happen after that. And this is an issue in the regulatory world that you deal with. Some of the things that we did, particularly in the water area, actually have helped us in the subsequent time. Some of those financial conditions in particular have helped us. At the end of June, we received a confirmation that we obtained a $192 million no-interest loan from the California Department of Public Health. It's an effort of our water system, and we're very pleased with that. Since it's a no-interest loan, it reduces our costs. We didn't know that at the time we went into this rate proceeding. We also went out for refinancing some of our existing outstanding debt in water and a new money debt issue that happened in the last couple of months. That came out much better than we expected. Interest rates were lower than we expected. Bottom line, we got some $20 million in the next fiscal year alone of savings from that. So the important result of that, and the long-winded explanation of this, is we believe that we can comfortably defer further action, and we'll bring up to you later the adjustment in the water rates. I don't know how long right now, to be honest, we have to do some further evaluation on that, but I expect easily it could be next summer before we would be coming back before you, subject to future evaluation on that. Just a clarification that, as we've discussed several times, the board on this, that doesn't mean that actual water rates are frozen during that time. We have adjustment factors, the most principal one being our purchased water cost. That's already going up right now. That is an automatic pass-through. It has to. We have the obligation to provide water to our customers, and we had a horrible dry year last year. So that'll give us time to look through some of the questions that the ratepayer advocate is. It'll also give us some time to address some of the questions that were posed at the last board meeting with respect to our local water supply program and how quickly we want to go with that. I don't have any substance to discuss that here today, other than to say that we will be coming back and talking about water rates later on that, and for that reason, that's not why we're not, despite what we were talking in the last few meetings, not going to be addressed here today.
That's good. Questions or comments on just the water issue?
Just, I appreciate the explanation, Mr. Nichols. And it sounds like what you're saying is that we will be able to maintain adequate debt service coverage and liquidity. But I just kind of want to hear you say that explicitly.
We will, and that was a key factor before we sat down to determine whether we would come before you with a rate proposal on water or not, or whether we could defer it. And we looked at that, and for some of the reasons I explained, we're comfortable that our debt service coverage and our financial liquidity will be sufficient. The timing by which we come back to you, though, we're going to keep monitoring that, and how as we refine those estimates further will affect certainly how quickly we would end up having to come back to you, and we'll give you a better feel for that as we dig into it a little bit deeper. Thank you.
So notwithstanding your response to Commissioner Holloman's question, are there consequences that the department will face as a result of this deferral? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, I believe there are. I think I'm concerned. Let's say are there consequences I'm concerned about? I'm concerned that we may not be able to ramp up our local water supply program. By that, it's our water conservation, our recycled water, our groundwater cleanup, and such as quickly as we might like to have. I don't know that for sure. I'm concerned that might be, and that's one of the things we're going to drill into a little bit more deeply. We're all in, I think, we need to take another look at whether we can ramp up our aged pipe replacement program over the next 2 years as quickly as we want to do. I think we're fine for this year. We're going to have to look a little more deeply as to whether we'll have a problem doing that for fiscal year 13-14 or not. Those are the two areas of biggest concern to us, and we're going to do everything we can to see if we can still maintain our path forward on that. But those are the two items, probably the biggest items at risk.
Mr. Parker?
Thank you, President Sales. Mr. Nichols, I'm really pleased to hear that that the water system has received the no-cost loan from Sacramento, and that we're through refinancing received about $20. We anticipate $20 million in savings. But I am disappointed that some of the most important work that we're involved in is our local water supply, and I would like to ask you if it's possible, and I think this is a role for the city attorney as well, to look at the adjustment factors that will come before this board in the coming months and see if that is a possible avenue for at least getting some of those projects started.
We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Unless there's an objection, I think we'll defer on the water rates.
Agreed.
Agreed? Okay. We'll talk a little bit about power.
Let's do that. We'll talk a lot more about power. I'm going to have Phil Leiber, our Chief Financial Officer, go over the power rate proposal, but prior to doing that, I want to just give a little bit of context for that. I might end up covering a bit of what Phil's going to cover, but I think we're at a pretty important point in the Department of Water and Power's history on how we go forward with rates. We now have a ratepayer advocate on board. I think that we have, both on our own initiative and on the questions in the review that's been raised by the ratepayer advocate, I think we have a much more deeper dive and much more transparent process than I think this department's ever had in reviewing power rates. And I know the questions that you all have asked as a board have been very helpful into digging into this further. I'd like to remind everybody that this isn't just this year. If we went back to last June 4th of 2011, we started our water and power rates process. And it started with what was an historic time. I don't believe there's been a joint meeting of our board and members of the city council before on this, and that's how we kicked off this process. And the target was to have our rates in effect, power rates in particular in effect, last November. So we're looking at a year's delay with regard to that. We temporarily suspended that for the selection and the ramp up of the ratepayer advocate, and we understand that. We understand how important that is. And the results of that were on August 22nd, the first ever report of an independent review by a ratepayer advocate in the city of Los Angeles for Department of Water and Power. What you have today before you is a rate proposal that's based on largely what you've seen, what we have presented back in the April-May time frame and again in August, with some changes in rate structure that reflect input by the ratepayer advocate, and some cost elements that have been modified based on that in terms of how we incur those costs. You have before you a binder with a lot of information in that. That information is virtually all of that information is information that's been in the public domain. We put it together for you in one place for your convenience to provide some additional background. It's on the cost drivers, supporting regulatory mandates, the programs that we're driving on, and all some of the key assumptions of the rate proposal are in there. But again, that's all information that has been out there, we've discussed before. And as a result, we're not going to go through all that in extraordinary detail. Both the board and the public has heard this information before. Mr. Leiber will cover a summary presentation of that, and to put this all in context. Obviously, feel free to ask any questions as Phil goes through that. And then I think the plan is we'll take public comment and Q&A after the board. So with that, let me turn it over to Phil.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nichols. So this is a summary level presentation. As Steve mentioned, just stop me along the way if questions should arise. So I think Mr. Nichols has summarized pretty well where we stand. It has been a lengthy process, culminating a 6-month review process. We've had lots of interactions with our customers on this. The conversation with customers started last summer, where we asked them about whether they would support various strategic investments in areas like energy efficiency, purchasing renewable power, and the power reliability program. Our proposal today reflects their feedback on those matters, and it also reflects the feedback that we have received from the ratepayer advocate in the period of several months that we've worked with him on developing this proposal. He presented his findings on August 22nd, and he is here today to say a few more words about where he stands with respect to our proposal now. So we did conduct our rate outreach and discuss our revenue needs with respect to 3 important programs for the power system. And these programs are not just things that are going to affect the next 2 years, but they will be continuing programs into the future as well. Power supply replacement program and the 3 elements there: rebuilding the local power plants, ramping up to 33% renewable power, and not really an element that affects this 2-year rate request, but the transition away from coal, beginning with Navajo in 2015-2016. Power reliability program, replacing the aging infrastructure used to deliver the power from the plants to customers. And finally, the customer opportunities program, where customers can take charge of their bills by implementing energy efficiency measures and funded by part by the utility, as well as implementing solar programs through the solar, the new feed-in tariff or the existing solar incentive program. So a key challenge in all this is these investments are costly, and one of the things we're trying to be very mindful of is ensuring that rates remain competitive as we implement these required programs. These are some of the dollars summarizing the key spending in these areas. The bottom line is that over this 3-year period, our spending is increasing by nearly $300 million across these programs, and that is really the key driver as to why we need to adjust rates. This provides an outlook of our current spending for the 12-13 fiscal year. It takes about $3 billion to produce and deliver the power to our customers, and the largest elements are shown in this pie chart. About 40% of the cost shown at the bottom is the direct cost to produce the power, either through our own generation plants or from third parties. The segment up in the upper left relates to repaying the capital investments that have been made over past decades, repaying bonds. A lot of the capital program comes from borrowed money. Up in the top right quadrant, we see labor costs that for the power system are just under a quarter of the total, and everything else, including materials, supplies, the city transfer, and so forth, that's about 15% of the total.
If you take out the city transfer, are these cost allocations relatively similar to another large municipal utility?
You really see a lot of variation. I've seen bar charts that break out costs like this across utilities, and it really does vary over the map. For example, the utility I just came from, Seattle City Light, they didn't have anything in the way of fuel expense because their fuel was free. It was from hydropower. So a lot of this really depends on the type of fuel and other factors. So the basic challenge that we face here is we haven't had rate adjustments for over 2 years when we're talking about fuel costs or and we've been fortunate there in that natural gas prices have been low, relieved a lot of pressure. But with respect to base rates or the reliability cost adjustment, it's been over 3 years. And we just simply don't have the funding necessary to make these additional investments without the rate action we have in front of you today.
Well, I want to ask a question. Since we haven't had increases for some time, how have we gotten through the last year or so?
Well, a couple of factors. One, on the fuel costs, we have been very fortunate. Not too long ago, we were looking at $12 per BCF for natural gas, and now it's just in the $2 to $3 range. So that's been enormously helpful. With respect to other costs, we've tightened our belt, we've deferred programs, and we're going to continue to keep our belt tight, so to speak. But even with that, we just don't have the additional revenue to make these investments. This chart really summarizes the issue. It's the same information as was shown in the previous pie chart. The $3.1 billion will need to increase to just under $3.4 billion 2 years from now. So it's about a $300 million revenue shortfall, and that's driven largely by additional capital spending. So if we look at the bars, the bar on the bottom is the capital investment. That needs to increase by about 25% to pay off the bonds that are being used to fund this additional investment. And the other large component is O&M costs, where those are increasing by about 10%. So with that increased need for revenue, that really has to come from one place, from our customer bills. So system-wide, we are looking at an increase of about 1.4 cents per kilowatt hour through fiscal year 2014. That equates to about an 11% increase system-wide. Each of the customer classes will overall face an increase of about 11% over 2 years. However, within those classes, there is a fair amount of variation. So talking about just residential customers, most of our residential customers, in fact 2/3 of them, will see rate increases just about half the system average, so on the order of about 5.5% over 2 years rather than 11%. And those are for customers who use about 500 kilowatt hours per month. Now, there are customers who use more, and they will face higher rate increases. For those customers who use twice that average, they're looking at about a 14% increase over the 2 years. And I would just note that it is less than 10% of our customers who are at this consumption level or above. So it's not a large segment. In terms of commercial customers, for the most part, they're facing increases that closely match the system average. Here too, because there are energy charges and demand charges, it will vary somewhat depending on the consumption levels and patterns. One thing
One of the things that
That concludes our presentation.
Oh, the power was out.
Wow. No irony there.
Rate increase?
No irony there.
Well, one thing I should note with respect to residential customers, we also took particular care to look at the impact on both low-income customers and valley customers who are at the higher end of our consumption levels. And for both customers, they are not customer groups, they're not adversely impacted by this increase. So for valley customers, 88% of them will pay less than the system average increase. And that's, in fact, a bit more than citywide. And the reason for that is they get a higher allotment in their Tier 1 prices. So it is warmer, but they get more of the low-cost Tier 1 power to offset that. For low-income customers, same issue. We wanted to ensure that they weren't adversely impacted. And about 87% of our low-income customers will face rate increases less than the system average. Typical low-income customers use about 300 kilowatt hours per month, so that's all Tier 1 power, and they too would see an increase less than 1/2 of the system average. So this really ties up what's driving the rate increases. If we look over the 2 years, again, it's about a 1.4 cent per kilowatt hour increase, and it's primarily going, about 70% of it is going to fund 4 mandated programs. So we're rebuilding our local power plants to eliminate the use of ocean water for cooling. We're ramping up to 33% renewable power. And then on the other customer opportunity programs, about 21% is to ramp up the investment in energy efficiency so that we can meet at least the 10% state goal by 2020. And there's some additional funding for our solar programs, primarily the solar incentive program, although we are ramping up the feed-in tariff to 150 megawatts over the next 2 years.
Mr. Lieber, on the chart you have fuel down there at 16%.
Yes.
If the price of natural gas has come down so precipitously, why do we need an increase in the amount of fuel that we're going to be supplying for the city?
Well, that's a good question. It is low currently, but we don't expect that that will remain the case over the next couple of years. It's already come up from the trough of the curve. And if we look at the forward gas prices, there are projected increases that we have to count on.
Is coal captured in this 16%?
It would be all of our fuel costs, although for the most part, the increases are for natural gas. And then the remaining portion, really the only element on this chart that could be deemed somewhat discretionary would be the investment in the power reliability program. We don't have a regulator telling us we have to do this work at this particular, in this particular time frame. It's not a market issue, but it is just simply a matter of keeping up. If we don't, reliability will suffer. It is an aging infrastructure that requires additional investment. So one of the key things we look at is, and we're quite proud of over the years, our rates are competitive. They're lower than the neighboring utilities, and the good news is that will remain the case even with these rate increases. So with the typical 500 kilowatt hour customer, their bill will increase from about $65.79 to $69.44 over the 2 years. And even with that increase, it will still be below that of the neighboring utilities, who face some of the same cost pressures as we do, and they have pending rate increases under consideration as well. The other factor I want to point out is there is a city utility tax that is a bit higher in Los Angeles at 10% versus anywhere from 6 to just under 8% in the neighboring utilities. But even with that somewhat higher utility tax, our rates remain the most competitive, the lowest among peers.
So the graph reflects the city tax as well.
The amounts that are shown up here do not reflect that, but even adding that in, so if you add in the 658, our rates are still the lowest overall. So an important new step in this process is the opinion on all of this by the ratepayer advocate. I had prepared some summary remarks about what the ratepayer advocate said, but we thought it would be probably more efficient to have Dr.
I'm going to go back on this
summarize.
point, because I think we need to emphasize that even with the proposed increase, our rates will be lower than neighboring municipal utilities as well as the IOUs. Why is that? Is it our fuel purchase costs? What is it? Particularly when you consider, just generally speaking, what is it that enables us to maintain our rates lower than?
Well, a couple of things I could point to, and Mr. Nichols can supplement my response. Number one, compared to the investor-owned utilities, we do have an advantage. We have the ability to fund our capital program at tax-exempt interest rates. We don't have an equity component to finance our capital. So our overall cost of capital in a very capital-intensive industry is lower than the investor-owned utilities. So that's a key advantage. Another is just our historical power supply. We own some very low-cost generation. That certainly the other municipal utilities, they have a different power mix. We have perhaps some economies of scale that help us in terms of advantages over the smaller neighboring municipals. I'm sure there are a number of other factors.
And there's one other factor as it pertains to the investor-owned utilities. They are subject to the vagaries of the power market. They have to purchase the vast majority of their power. While it's in an open competitive market, there are those who may disagree with that. I strongly hold that competitive market has resulted in higher cost to them than the cost that we have encountered in our system. So it's a lot of different little pieces. Probably the capital cost being the cost of capital being one of the most material, because we are so capital intensive. Every electric utility is capital intensive.
Mr. Nichols, to follow up on that, with the potential shuttering, or at least the temporary shuttering of San Onofre, won't that be driving up costs for both Edison and San Diego as well?
Well, I don't really want to speak for Edison's costs, but to the extent that it depends probably a lot on how the costs of their existing nuclear plant are allocated and a number of other factors in there, but it certainly has a likelihood of them, we'll have them more reliant on the market, and one would presume that as a result of that, their costs would be going up over that as a result of that.
Thank you.
Okay. So rather than me go through and put words into the mouth of Dr. Pickle, we thought he could summarize his findings. He did provide his full report on the 22nd, but may have a few words to say.
Welcome, Dr. Pickle.
Thank you. rather than present to you 7 long detailed slides, I've provided those to you on paper in this document. I support this 2-year rate increase, and this work is supported by the PA Consulting detailed report that provides cost comparisons like you were asking, in sometimes sleep-inducing detail, but there are points that will wake you up in that, and that gets to the second point in part of my recommendations. If we look beyond this 2-year period, there will be a continued pressure for rate increases at the level of these increases or higher. So DWP needs to continue the cost reduction and transformation effort that they've started, and the new management team has done a very good job of that, but this needs to be broadened. The PA recommendations speak a lot to that issue, going beyond my general recommendations to you last time. I'm not going to walk you through those now, but just to say, in final summary, we support this. DWP has been, as Ron has said, extraordinarily generous in terms of the amount of information they've provided and working with us. They've given us everything we've asked for, and we are looking forward to the process continuing on the water side.
While we have Dr. Pickle here, any questions from either one of the commissioners?
No, I just want to underscore something you just said, which is that DWP has been open and transparent and cooperative in sharing financial information. I think that's a very important point, and I very much appreciate you highlighting that.
It's gone far beyond my expectations.
Great.
Thank you.
I should also note that the proposal that we have in front of you today is not exactly what the department came up with initially. It has reflected a fair amount of feedback from Dr. Pickle. A couple of matters that I would just point out would be, one, we are proposing an incremental ordinance to add to the current ordinance, and the ratepayer advocate recommended adopting that essentially on an interim basis, to revisit that when conditions permit. So we've agreed to that, and language to that effect is in the ordinance. There was also a recommendation that this board and council explicitly consider the additional investments that we're proposing to make for the power reliability program, energy efficiency, and base rate increases other than for mandated programs. We think our recommendation in those areas matches the feedback that the board has provided. There's some additional materials in the book specifically addressing that issue. So we think our proposal, as it's in front of you today, reflects your direction on those matters.
I do want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Pickle. One of the things this board is committed to is an open and transparent rate-making process. I think the ratepayer advocate has absolutely contributed to that. And I agree with my colleagues that the department has done its part, and we certainly believe the ratepayer advocate has done their part. So thank you very much. We're now, anything else, Ron, you'd like to add? Okay, we've got public, before we go to public comment.
Nothing more to add. I don't know if there's questions that the commissioners might.
I have a couple questions. Mr. Nichols, the proposed power rates, will they achieve the 2-year energy efficiency ramp-up that you presented when we adopted the fiscal year 2012-2013 budget in May?
This is a bit of a concern for us. We're starting later. We couldn't commit to things until such time that the rates are approved. The board acts now. It goes to City Council. We can't. We're gearing up as much as we can. We're moving forward within the current dollars allotted, but I'm concerned that we may not catch up over the course of this fiscal year, and it may end up having to push some of what we're doing in this fiscal year, planning to do into the next fiscal year. We're going to do everything we can to avoid that happening, but that is a possibility that could occur as a result.
And we have your commitment to try to, if given we receive the proposed power rates, that we will ramp up in terms of staffing and your office's attention to try to get us to our energy efficiency goals.
Most definitely, and I think I can ably speak for Mr. Jaco, who runs that he lives and breathes for that. So that is what that is. We'll do everything that we can to meet that plan that we had before.
A related question concerning our renewable energy program. Will these proposed rates allow us to stay on the path to meet our RPS standards?
We have not moved forward as quickly as we would have on our incremental renewable energy requirements. And there's two pieces of that are important for us in the kind of nearer term. Is we need to maintain 20% average over 2011 through 2013. We're probably going to have to enter into some short-term arrangements to make certain that we maintain that 20% average. We would like to have not had to have done that, but we're probably at a point now, just given the fact that we've had to slow things down a bit as we waited for rate approvals. We are going to be coming to the board very soon, perhaps as early as this month, depending on final negotiations, with some incremental power projects, renewable power projects, not that meet the next 2-year requirements, but get us to that ramp up to the next big piece, which is 25% mandate by the state law, state RPS law, by 2016. And just to be clear, those costs won't be incurred during this 2-year period of time. They will be incurred beyond that period of time, and we'll be discussing that.
So to just paraphrase what you just said, for us to maintain our 20% RPS, we will have to go to the market.
We believe so, yes. Short term.
Any other comments before we go to public comment? Why don't we start with public comment?
Okay.
Initially on item 1. On item 1.
Oh, go to item 1?
Yeah.
Okay, public comment, item number 1, we do have one speaker card, and that's Linda Romney.
Good morning. As you know, we have the largest unemployment rate. As you also know, your ratepayers are experiencing their homes being foreclosed on at a rate that we have not seen since the other Great Depression. The majority of your ratepayers are experiencing a depression. When you take into consideration the entire Department of Water and Power bill, and the Department of Water and Power is a monopoly, there is absolutely nowhere for your ratepayers to go. We have the highest 10% tax. We have the highest sanitation tax rate. We have the highest rate for sewer, and we have the highest rate for power and for water. You look at the chart that was presented here where you're talking about your most indigent individuals that you have, which is your low income and your lifeline, and I'm talking about indigent. You limit it to 284,000 according to the DWP statistics. And when I say limited, I've given you an exhibit there, which you have, Mr. President Sills and Mr. Ron Nichols for myself, where I have timely presented my recertification for Lifeline, and you have the certified proof of service by a disinterested third party, and that is what the court form uses. Also my letter to Linda Jetta. I've been working for over 2 years for that reduction for the DWP. I have it for the Department of Sanitation, but the DWP, the right hand and the left hand are not coordinating. And what do I get as response to my correspondence for the last 2 years? Simply that, oh, we don't give those retroactively. It wouldn't be retroactively if the Department of Water and Power did what they're supposed to do. Also, The fact of the matter is that as you know, July 1st of 11, we had a $50 increase in sanitation for your low income and your senior citizens and disabled. We could not opt out of that increase. For the last 30 years, there has not been an increase in the amount of money allocated for your low income and your senior citizens. That amount of money currently is $12 per month, while meanwhile we've had over 3,000 rate increases by the Department of Water and Power. Now Glendale and Pasadena, according to the chart here, they're less. And this is only taking into consideration the power aspect. When
Could you wrap up your remarks, please?
When you look at the entire bill that is forced upon your low income and your senior citizens, you are, in fact, and I mean the city of Los Angeles, is going to be committing genocide on at least 284,000 and limiting the amount of money, the number of low income and senior citizens and disabled that can apply for that is absolutely unforgivable. And you have my personal data in front of you, and I still do not have it, even though I'm writing letters on a monthly basis and have been doing so for the last 2 years, and I meet with your people and nothing is being done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's go to comment on item 2.
Okay, public speakers for item number 2?
Yes.
Okay, the first speaker is Mr. Said, and then after that will be Kyle Cherniglia.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You say our prices are competitive. U.S. government statistics, I have presented that statistic to the board. It says that LA consumers pay 60% more than the average American paying elsewhere. How is it competitive? Number 2, since 2008, due to natural gas price drop, there is a savings of between cumulative, $30 to $40 billion in the Californian economy. Have your customers been benefited from that? I don't see in that rate increase upon rate increase upon rate increase. I have disputed, and I've got a couple of respondents which are not satisfactory. And just a third point was raised here by the respectable board member. The reserve of the natural gas in the United States now stands at upon 4 trillion cubic feet. That gives you an assurance that the price is not going to be beyond $4 in the coming 2-3 years. And then production of natural gas is 10% more than consumption. So absolutely there is no way that the prices are going. Hadn't not been there the last storm, Isaac, we would have been in much better position. There was a probability that the price would have dropped below $2. And sometimes after October, that when these winter purchases are over, you would probably see that. So the fact that our friends are saying that we are going to be facing a price hike in the next 2 years, I don't think that statistically it's viable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Kyle Cherniglia, and after that, Christopher Chin.
Good morning. As you said, I'm Kyle Cherniglia. I recently just graduated from UCLA studying environmental science and environmental engineering. And I'm coming to you today on behalf of myself and what I've heard from other community members and businesses and nonprofit groups. What I would like to say is I've studied the need for these improvements in our infrastructure, and I'm really concerned about the renewability and the reliability of our utilities and the sustainability in the future. And I think as a necessary step, it's important that our citizens know about this need for improved infrastructure, and I think as an initial step towards moving towards a more reliable utility, we need to pass these rate adjustments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Christopher Chin, and after that, Lee Wallach.
Hi, my name is Christopher Chin, and I'm here today on behalf of Community Assets Consulting. And we're a consulting firm, and we do a lot of work with international solar providers and bringing them here to the States to build large projects. And I'd just like to say that I believe these rate adjustments for power is necessary, especially for our infrastructure. And I know Phil had said that that was the part of our plan that was, was not necessary, but I feel like the infrastructure here in Los Angeles definitely needs an improvement and very much is necessary to the plan. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Lee Wallach, and after that, Linda Romney.
Hello, folks.
Morning.
Lee Wallach. I'm here representing Faith to Green. I also am a member of an educational coalition, Angelinos for Reliable Water and Power, and you'll hear more about them in the future. But really, as Faith to Green, we've been before you for many, many years. We've been following a lot of these issues for a long time. Our infrastructure is aging. It's in terrible need of work now, today. Not tomorrow, not the day after. The mandates we have, I don't need to go through all of this, are very clear to most of the folks here. We're very supportive of these adjustments. I wanted smaller adjustments. I think our ratepayer advocate has done a yeoman's job in advocating for some of that. We are worried at splitting water and power right now. We're worried about a larger increase, a larger incremental increase on water later. We're very concerned about that. We're concerned that some of the work that's going to be needed to be done on our infrastructure and some of our water saving programs will not be accomplished. That's a great concern. But now we have it before us, before you. It's been before a number of GMs, a number of boards. For a number of years, we've had a number of studies. Now is the time to do this. We can't keep deferring this. And just deferring our capital expense and our maintenance, which is why we've been able to keep the rates low. So we're asking you to take action now, and let's stop deferring this to our kids, our children, and our children's children in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Linda Romney, and after that, William Shenwerk.
And so it is, we have 43% that's composed of renewable power and 10% for the state goal. This would be very nice, except for one thing, and that is that the economy right now does not permit us to do what we would like to do had the economy been different. When you get your notification from the Southern California Gas Company for the first time, that notification states that they're asking the Public Utility Commission for a decrease in our rates. We went down, according to what was just presented today, from $12 to $3 for natural gas. We all know we have plenty of natural gas if we did what we need to do because of our current situation, because of the current situation you have with your ratepayers and the economy. We could get by without having any rate increases whatsoever if we followed and did what we need to do when we do not have the money coming in at this time. Your ratepayers right now for the San Fernando Valley, when you talk about the fact that it's hotter in the valley and that, oh, you're going to give them the tier 1, you're still going to be charging them more. Why don't you change your temperature, your zone? It's at least 20 degrees. What about heating? The San Fernando Valley has to heat also, not just air conditioning, but heating. It's at least 20 degrees in that direction also. But there has been no concession whatsoever for the valley, for the fact that you have larger homes there versus apartments and condominiums here in Los Angeles, which means the San Fernando Valley is paying for the Department of Water and Power. Something has to be done about this. We cannot afford these rate increases. And if you were prudent and looked at the time, the economics of what your ratepayers are facing right now, you would not do this at this time. We cannot afford it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is William Shenwork, and after that, Yahig Kashishian.
Okay, I'm William Shenwork. I previously appeared here. I'm a licensed nuclear engineer, mechanical engineer, and aircraft A&P. I have in my hands what I believe is a California Renewable Energy Death Certificate. FERC requested suspension of California's greenhouse gas trading plan. Apparently, out-of-state electricity suppliers gagged on unacceptable penalties for resource shuffling, as it's so called. Electricity comes without serial numbers, so its source cannot be traced. A quarter of California's electricity comes from out of state. It's not too hard to extrapolate that AB 32 requirements will be unenforceable for the same reason. Electricity has no serial number. Investments in renewable energy will collapse in the face of 7 cents a kilowatt hour power from airplane motors. At 7 cents a kilowatt hour, renewable energy investments will struggle to pay property taxes, insurance, land rent, and major repairs. Los Angeles now wants to spend $1,000 a person on renewable energy, a highly regressive tax. Apparently, Measure B results are being ignored. The City Council gagged on the last 3 cents a kilowatt hour rate increase. Air quality may actually get worse if upwind power, backup power replaces downwind coal power. Renewable energy and associated backup power may use as much natural gas as combined cycle gas turbines producing all the power. Renewable energy may actually have negative environmental benefits relative to burning coal because Mexico is projected to become a net importer of LNG. And I've already have my planet destroyer.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Yahig Kashishian, and after that, Neil Richmond.
Good morning, Yahig Kashishian with the Central City Association of Los Angeles. First, I would like to begin by thanking Ron Nichols and his staff for bringing this matter to our attention very early on and allowing our voice to be brought into this important discussion. Transparency has definitely increased at this department, and as a result, the department's relationship with the private sector has improved drastically. CCA represents the city's largest property owners, and even modest rate increases equate to millions of dollars of increased costs for our members. As a business community steward on these issues, we must find that delicate balance between managing the financial hardship that rate increases impose on our property owners, but also giving LADWP the means to continue operating and providing critical services to our communities. In this instance, we support the power rate increases that LADWP is proposing. We recognize that without sufficient funding to upgrade our aging power system, the department's ability to service its 1.4 million customers may be compromised. State and federal mandates, in addition to the continuing need for infrastructure replacement, has accelerated the need for upgrades and repairs. Unfortunately, this cannot happen without rate action this year. As difficult as it may be, we must take the appropriate steps to allow LADWP to continue on this positive track towards service improvements and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Neil Richmond, and after that, Carolyn Casavan.
My name is Neil Richmond. I'm the Director of Programs and Advocacy with Breathe LA. Breathe LA is an independent nonprofit organization that's dedicated to promoting healthy lungs and clean air through research, education, advocacy, and technology. We've been around not as long as the DWP, but for over 110 years, working on these issues when people first came to Los Angeles because the air was clean and they were recuperating from tuberculosis. Our organization is a strong supporter of AB 32, and we are extremely concerned that approximately 40% of the city's energy comes from coal-fired power plants. This represents a large source of greenhouse gas emissions, and the communities in which these plants are located experience pollution that affects residents' ability to breathe. We need to move towards greater reliance on renewables, energy efficiency, and forms of power that do not result in dangerous emissions in our airs. We strongly support the DWP's commitment to change this energy portfolio, and because of that, we support the proposed rate increase. And even as noted, even with these increased power rates, DWP rates are still lower than many other utilities, and we thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Carolyn Casavan, and after that, Michelle Garakian.
Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Carolyn Casavan, and I'm the president of the San Fernando Valley Green Team. And we also are an independent organization. We represent businesses, educators, nonprofits, and community organizations in bringing green practices and technology to the San Fernando Valley. We support the proposed electricity rate increases. We understand the need for these increases in order to ensure the reliability of our power system. As we had a chance today to see how important that is, I know myself, we lost a transformer outside of my place of business for a day, and it really becomes, you understand the importance of reliability when that happens to you. Also to meet renewable energy goals and other regulatory requirements, and to provide energy efficiency and solar programs. We strongly support the energy efficiency programs, and I was happy to hear that come up in the discussion today. These programs, we think, are really important for enabling people to keep their energy bills low even as energy rates are going up. So even though the rates might be increasing, that doesn't mean that people's costs have to increase. Through energy efficiency, we think that people can reduce their energy costs. These programs also have been very important to stimulating jobs in the green sector, in both technology, construction, and the service sector, and we've seen that directly in our communities. And they also reduce department costs in the long run by reducing the need for building new generating capacity. And it's an opportunity for the department to leverage private sector funds to help implement this energy efficiency, because through rebates, the department's only paying a fraction of that energy efficiency cost, and the private sector is then investing additional money that in the long run now is saving the department energy. So we think these programs are really important, and we hope to see continued emphasis on energy efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Michelle Garakian, and after that, Tony Wilkinson.
Good afternoon, members of the Commission, Ron Nichols, Mr. Lieber. My name is Michelle Garakian, the Vice President of the Los Angeles Business Council. We represent more than 350 key business industry leaders and nonprofit leaders in Los Angeles. Investment in the DWP's basic power infrastructure is long overdue. It is not a sound policy to rely on polluting coal-fired electricity plants in other states to power Los Angeles' homes and businesses. State regulations mandate significant investments in renewable energy resources, and the DWP, as we know, will be fined millions of dollars if it fails to meet these guidelines. The burden of these fines will inevitably be borne by ratepayers like myself and our constituents, unless significant energy investments are made very shortly. After careful study, the LABC supports the DWP's proposed rate increases, with the understanding that the department will continue its ongoing efforts to improve transparency and adopt clear accountability standards. We specifically recommend that the department implement an effective cost management process to monitor and audit vital programs. It is also important to bear in mind that even after a rate increase, Los Angeles' business and residents will still pay less for power than utility customers in other parts of the region. Plus, the outcome will be a cleaner, smarter DWP infrastructure that positions the city for continued business growth. Los Angeles faces a choice. We can either face huge fines for failing to comply with government sustainability mandates, or we can make an investment necessary to lead the way. It's time legal mandates require it, and business interests do too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Tony Wilkinson, and after that, Evan Gillespie.
Hi, Tony Wilkinson, Chair of the Neighborhood Council, Department of Water and Power, Memorandum of Understanding Oversight Committee. And I did mark general comments on my speaker's card because, of course, the Neighborhood Councils retain the right to make their own positions on items like the rate increase. The Oversight Committee focuses on information and transparency. And in that regard, I'd like to thank the department and Dr. Fred Pickle, the ratepayer advocate, and the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, who originally retained PA Consulting, for their commitment to transparency in this rate review process. The PA Consulting report contains an unprecedented level of detail and candid remarks on the department's expenses, costs, and future revenue requirements. I'd also like to thank the department and Dr. Pickle for agreeing on this shorter 2-year period for this rate proposal. In my personal opinion, it's long overdue and an increase that I personally support. There are many critical issues that we need to start considering now. The long-term implications of revisions to the Integrated Resource Plan, the rate restructuring and the burden borne by single-family homeowners in renewing DWP's facilities, and how we can achieve our objective of getting off coal-fired generation at a cost that is bearable by our ratepayers. Approval of this 2-year proposal will let us move forward to discuss those and other challenges that loom ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Evan Gillespie.
Hi, good morning. My name is Evan Gillespie. I'm here on behalf of the Sierra Club. Sierra Club has about 15,000 members here in the city of Los Angeles. A lot has been said about transparency today, and I just want to echo a couple of those points. This has been an 18-month process, but just looking at the calendar this morning, and a credit to Ron and to Phil and to the new ratepayer advocate for their work to help the public understand the decision before them today, before you today. A couple quick things I want to point out. It is really, really great to see, in light of a conversation about rate increase, the new emphasis on energy efficiency. By making sure that we are providing an equitable energy efficiency program that reaches every community across the city, including both residents and businesses, we can ensure that even as rates go up, not just in Los Angeles, but as we've seen today, just about everywhere else in the country, that as those rates go up, we can ensure that the bills people pay, the checks they write every other month to the DWP, that those remain manageable. I also want to commend the department for its continued progress towards moving away from the Navajo Generating Station. It is one of the dirtiest coal plants in the entire country. And to see the department not only planning to move away in 2015, but also using another mandate, the Renewable Portfolio Standard, to begin to replace that power. We are moving away from coal in a way that's cost-effective, that drives, that preserves costs, that limits costs to the department, and that makes sure that we get the biggest environmental impact for the transition. So just want to say thanks for that. Sierra Club is encouraged by the proposal today, and we look forward to working with you and the department, and the City Council and the Mayor going forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, that was our last speaker card for this item.
Are there questions or comments from, let's focus first on item 2. Are there questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Is there a motion?
Commissioner, before you move on the item,
Yes.
there's one sentence that for a 96-page ordinance is pretty good that we only have one additional sentence. It is on the official ordinance that the board secretary has, but we didn't have time to put it online, and this was requested by the ratepayer advocate, and that addition is at page 78, sub E. The sentence, "This amount will be collected to the following fiscal year," has been added. So that is what you're voting on, but it is different from what was
Okay, with that clarification, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 3, I think there's a similar comment you want to make on item 3?
We do. There's a correction to page 2 of the ordinance at items 2 and 3. The energy charge should be reflected as .00953 in both instances. And again, that's on the official version. There's a 1 accidentally in there on the copy that's been uploaded.
Questions or comments on item 3?
So moved.
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, item 3 passes. Item 4, is there going to be a separate presentation on?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I made an error there. The addition that I had was to item 4, not item 3. It's just pointed out to me that 4 is the AMP ordinance.
Okay, so we're good on 3, okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to take in consideration what you said about item 4, right? And it's reflected in the documents before us now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Questions or comments on item 4? Or Phil, is there something you want to add?
I would hope there would be a presentation related to item 4.
On EVs and AMP?
Yes, please.
Yes, we have Mr. George Chen from the Rates Department who can say a few words about this. This represents work that we've done with the Port of LA to revise our current AMP structure to provide a rate targeted to large ships who come in just periodically and have a lot of demand. The existing rate structure wasn't advantageous to them, so we have worked with them over the past year to revise this and have a new experimental AMP rate that Mr. Chen can describe in a little bit more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Iber. This ordinance, we're working with closely with the port and the power system and the EV groups. We developed this ordinance and made some changes to that. Basically, we try to encourage large ships come to Los Angeles, and also facilitate the electrical vehicle adoption in the city. Similar rates we've been developed in the past, and also had those demand response features. And in the last summer, we have about 40 megawatts load reduction using similar kind of approach. So with these new changes and proposed rates, it will create a win-win-win situation. It's good for the promoting business, and also at the same time reduce air pollution in the port when a ship coming and a large cruise ship coming to the port can use our shore power instead of use their generator. Also, one more thing is to expand the department, the load sales. So it's good for the city, good for the department, and also good for the air. So it's all win. We're looking at it. So I'd like to just go over the AMP. Basically, the proposed change on the option rate, the rate B from the existing rate A, we price the demand charges in line with interruptible requirement. Basically, because we take advantage of the ship comes in port, they use the standby generator so that in the moment's notice they have to take off and leave the port. So the generator is always on. So we said, okay, that's a great concept, then we can use that. Because when we have excess capacity, we say, okay, we can provide you the power, but when we have a shortage on the power, then we can interrupt you within 10 minutes notification time, and power system will work with us, and we have a dispatch already, with that arrangement. So with that kind of concept, and we putting a minimum charge $10,000 each month, and we kind of also increase the energy charge, and also we're putting the interruptible requirement, 10 minutes requirement. So at the end of the day, the cruise ship coming to the port of LA will see about 17 cents, close to 17 cents per kWh, and that we can expand our sales and also reduce the air pollution. So we think it's a kind of win-win for everybody. That's the AMP modification. Now let's talk about the EV modification here. So we think we can use this ordinance to help encourage development, implementation of plug-in EV while also using the existing off-peak capacity. So basically, we require that EV customers say, we provide a 2.5 cents per kWh discount between 8 p.m. and 10 a.m. on weekdays and all day in weekends. So if you charge, off-peak time and we have the excess capacity at that time, we provide a discount. And to do that, in the ordinance require you need a time of use meter so that we can measure you use that time off the peak time. And also, we waive the service charge. The customer, we work with power system and Aaron and Marvin. They tell us, well, Customers kind of have issues about the service charges because it's going to add a additional burden on them. So we say, okay, we'll waive that, but we have to require you a $10 minimum charge so that we don't want to, just have a meter idle there. There's no service. So you use it, you will get a discount, and we're going to monitor that. And also, there's the component of disconnect, the demand response component, and power system ask us, hey, let's work these. So in case we short on capacity, we can remotely turn that service off. So that's the changes in the AMP and the EV right here.
Thank you. I would like to move to approve the item.
Second. Any objections? Hearing none, the item passes. Thank you. Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
We have no closed session, no admonition, so meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all.